back to my channel. What's poppin'? If you're new here, welcome. My name is Brelynn. Make sure you subscribe and ring that bell, that way you get notifications whenever I upload a video, and follow me on my social media at BrelynnBarbie. So I'm super excited. You guys can see I'm here in my scrubs today. I wanted to do a vlog, like my first day at work vlog, but then I realized it was very hard to vlog at the hospital when it's like your first day. You don't know what's going on, you don't want to have your phone out, you know, you want to be professional, and I just really didn't want to get fired. I didn't want to like break any rules and stuff. So this is basically going to be like a story time, but I did get like a few clips, so it'll be like a story time vlog type situation. And I'm doing this video because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who want to work in the healthcare field, and you're wondering like what would it actually be like to work at a hospital. I'm gonna let you guys know that today, as well as for my own benefit. If you're new to my channel, I do like grad school vlogs. I've been vlogging since I first went into college, which was like almost 6 years ago, which is crazy to think about. But I've been vlogging the whole experience, and I will continue to vlog until I get to medical school and I become a doctor, and maybe even beyond. So this is just really a part of my journey that I wanted to document on camera for myself and also for you guys who are along this journey with me. So getting into the nitty-gritty, I'm a graduate school student right now. I'm getting my master's in physiology, and let me tell you, this program is intense. And so it was really hard and difficult for me to try and put this job over top of it because it was more than I expected. I knew it would be helpful to have some income coming in, but that really wasn't why I wanted to get this job. It's because I'm going to be taking a gap year once I graduate from my master's program in order to study for the MCAT, and I'm going to get a real job. I'm actually super excited about it because I've been in school, y'all, for a long time, and I have a lot more to go. So this will really be the only point in time in my career where I'm actually taking like a gap and breathing and relaxing. But I will hopefully be getting a job in the medical field, and so I figured that it would be a really great idea for me to get this experience working in the hospital, clinical experience. That way when I apply, I can say like, hey, I do know what I'm doing a little bit, you know what I'm saying? I'm a master of phys. I've worked in the hospital before. I know how to read and write the patient's history of illnesses and things like that. So that's really why I did this, so that possibly I could get a letter of recommendation after this. I could get clinical experience for post-grad life and things like that. So yeah, I applied to a lot of different places at once, so it really didn't click to me until I got this interview exactly like what this job would entail. So I am a medical scribe, which basically means that I have a huge computer and I follow physicians around, or a specific one physician for each shift. I follow that physician around. I go to every patient that they go to, and I literally type their first interaction experience with them, and I will write out in a very specific way the entire interaction between the patient and the physician, starting with their chief complaint all the way up to their diagnosis, whether they're being admitted, all of that. And if you guys have been watching my vlogs, you know that I've been going to training 4 months now. And so even though this is like my first day working at the hospital, I've actually been working for about like, what was that, since November, and it's January now. So I've been working for a really long time because I had to go through a lot of training. In order to do this job, I had to go to training once a week, sometimes twice a week. I would have to learn hundreds of terms, medical terms, all types of different terminology that was necessary. And just from my first day, I do realize how important it is to learn those terms, because you would be so lost if you didn't know them. But it definitely was a lot trying to, again, balance, learn all these different terms when they're just thrown at you and like, hey, memorize 200 of these. We're testing you on Tuesday. It's like, especially while in my graduate program. So yeah, I really didn't know what to expect for my first day. During training, we definitely walked through everything that you were going to be doing, and we did a couple of practice things, but it's nothing like being in the real situation, like being really there, especially because this is like life or death. Like, I work in the emergency department, so there are people coming in with all different types of situations and things, and I was like, I did not know what to expect. But again, I was nervous, but I was excited. Let's get started with my first shift. I was a little bit frazzled going in, not gonna lie, because that morning I had my first exam in my biochemistry class. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I stayed up all night. If you guys want to see that vlog, I'm pretty sure I vlogged that week. I'll leave it in the cards up above right now so you can check that out, as well as all of my grad school vlogs. Again, subscribe, sis. What are you doing? So yeah, I hadn't had much sleep that night, and again, for context, the available shift hours for my job are either 8-hour shifts or 10-hour shifts. So for my first day, I did an 8-hour shift, you know, try to keep it light. I have never in my life, I have never worked 10 hours, like, or 8 hours, like 8 hours. I get tired nowadays when I have to go to class for more than 2 hours. Like, I remember being in lab for 5 hours or 3 hours, and that felt like, oh my God, like 1 to 5. But like, to be on your feet and like working for 8 hours was just kind of like mind-boggling to me. I did not know how I was going to handle that. So I did bring an energy drink with me, and I brought snacks, and I ate right before I came. Right after my exam, I came home, I made breakfast. I did a quick little beat you guys are going to see in the clips. I didn't want to wear makeup just because I am a makeup wearer. Y'all know me, I'm beauty and brains. I like wearing makeup, so I personally wanted to wear just a look. Obviously it wasn't like full glam like this, hello, but I literally wore foundation, concealer, eyebrows, and mascara. Nothing too crazy, you know, just something to wear a good impression and that people were seeing me for my full self, because I didn't want to come in like 3 weeks in wearing makeup and they're like, oh my gosh, you never wear makeup, who is this person? Like, no, like some days I'm going to come with a little bit of makeup on, not every day, especially not if it's early in the morning, and if the shift is too long, it's not going to happen. But for the first day, I did wear a little bit of makeup. After my exam, by the time I ate and I did my makeup, it was time for me to go. And for reference, this hospital is 45 minutes away, and then on a Friday, and I believe my shift started at 3 p.m. Like, it was a quick turnaround time, plus the traffic. I was cutting it close, and I wanted to get there like at least 30 minutes early, because they gave us a tour of the hospital, but that was like in November. So I did not remember, like I was like, where do I park again? And then there's, y'all, okay. Starting off, let me just show you guys the clip that I had when I was heading to the hospital, and I was just nervous because I was stuck in traffic and time was cutting close. So I'm about 15 minutes away from the hospital, and I feel so nervous just because I don't exactly know like where to park, where to go, who I'm looking for, who I'm gonna meet. Like, I just feel very like, you know, I don't feel fully prepared, even though I tried to be like as prepared as possible. So this is my first time trying on my scrubs. They fit nice, they feel comfortable. I can't remember, I know they said like, you know, if it gets cold you can wear a jacket, and our scrubs have to be navy. I can't remember if they said that our jacket also had to be navy or if it could be black. So I don't have a navy jacket, all I have is like my black Adidas one. So I bought this one. If they tell me I can't wear it, then of course I'll take it off. Hopefully it's just not too cold. Another thing is that I wanted to be honestly like 30-45 minutes early, just so that I had enough time to figure things out. But I'm only gonna be like 12 minutes early, which is not okay. Like, by the time I park and get there, it's gonna be time for me to start, and that kind of has me a little bit anxious. Like, I won't be late, but I won't be early. And we all know to be early is to be on time. So I'm just kind of freaking out about that a little bit. This is what my little basic beat looks like. I feel like my camera is not focusing as well as it normally does. It's also raining outside, which really doesn't affect me, but it also kind of does. I feel like everybody else is driving a little bit slower. I just want to get there. Beyond wanting to be early, that way I had enough time to park and find where I need to be in the hospital, because let me tell you, they gave us a tour during orientation. I'm just going to be asking around. I wish I had more time to go through my manual and just feel a little bit more prepared about exactly how things are supposed to go, but because I came straight from my exam and I was really focusing on that for the past like week and a half, it was originally my plan to get to the hospital about 30 minutes early, because one of the worst things about my job is that they don't have parking. So the hospital is connected with a university, but it's not my university, so it's very hard for me to try and find places to park, because I can't park anywhere, especially not in the middle of the day like 3 p.m. And so there's a lot that I would park at, like a visitor's lot, but you're technically not supposed to park there once you're an employee, but it's $3 an hour, but then it maxes out at $10. So I was like, okay, I can either for 8 hours pay $10 and park right here and walk right to the hospital, or they gave me this long list of things that I had to do in order to basically get a one-day parking pass. Even though I was an employee, I had to purchase parking tickets like I was a student. It was honestly so much. And so it was like, you basically have to park over here, and then you have to walk over here, and then you have to get your parking pass for the day, because you have to buy parking passes by the day, and then you could go and you could park in this place, and then you still have to walk. And I was like, that's a lot. I'm gonna try and figure it out. I think the max for that was like $6, and I was like, I think I'll pay the extra $4 in order to be on time for work. Once I park and I'm rushing to go into the hospital, now I have to try and find exactly where the emergency department is. Like, I don't know where I'm going. Obviously there's big, huge emergency department signs, but I'm like, obviously I'm not about to just walk in like I have a broken arm right now. Like I had to look for, and I could not remember, you guys. I wish I took notes when they first gave us our tour, but it was so fast and it was so easy, and they just kept saying, you're gonna forget, just ask somebody. So I was like, okay, I couldn't remember, okay? I didn't know what I was doing. And so even though I probably got to the hospital at 2:45, by the time I was rushing around and asking people, and they were taking me different ways and through different doors, I think that I literally got to the emergency department at 3 p.m. Yes, I was technically late on my first day. Oh, I was so mad. I'm so type A that I was so frustrated that I was late, because I literally tried to give myself as much time as possible, but it was like traffic was bad, so that added time. Parking was bad, so that added time. I couldn't find an apartment, so that added time. Once I got to the emergency department, there are 4 different parts to the emergency department. They're called Team A, Team B, Team C, Team D. That day I was working at Team A. You would think that they would have some signs, something that says, hey, this is Team A, this is Team B. No, everywhere looked the same. And the thing about working at a hospital is that everybody looks busy, okay? And everybody probably is busy. So once I got to the actual emergency department, I was like, I know that I'm here, but like, which part is Team A? Like, everybody looks so busy, I didn't really want to like stop anybody and ask, and that's my biggest thing. Like, I really had to just suck it up and be like, I'm wasting time, I have to ask somebody. Now luckily, with it being my first shift, I was there to basically shadow another scribe, and because it's my first shift, I didn't have to do a lot of like typing myself. So she really walked me through, and it was kind of embarrassing because the scribe that I was shadowing found me. Like, I was just running around like this, and I think that she could tell, and she was just like, hey, are you Brelynn? And I'm like, yes. Are you Sarah? And she's like, yes, I am. And I'm like, oh gosh, thank you. I knew that that was her name, the person who I was shadowing that day. So she was like, come over here, like, this is where we are. And I'm like, oh, thank God. And then she, you know, did a quick little tour of everything again. Not necessarily like how to get places, but how to move around the emergency department, or specifically the Team A side of the emergency department. And she showed me to the employee lounge where I got my own hanger, whoop, whoop. And I put my coat on my hanger, and then I put my book bag on a hook, and then we went back out, and then I finally was able to log into the computer and officially start my shift. So one thing that I knew that I wanted to have for my first shift, or really for all of my shifts, were a notebook. They definitely said it was really important to bring a piece of pen and paper with you, and I saw that to be very useful because there was a time, or maybe 2 times, where like the computer shut off or the keys weren't working, and it was like you're trying to type so fast, people are talking fast. If your computer messes up for 2 seconds, you're like, no, let me okay. Like, there were a few moments where I was definitely frazzled. During this video, I wanted to share this product with you guys because if you are interested in clinical experiences, I feel like this would be really good for you. This isn't sponsored, but there is this journal called the Clinical Experience Journal. I saw them on Instagram and I decided to purchase one myself. I believe it's from the brand Cold Blue Essays, and I know they also do some stuff for the MCAT. And so there's basically 4 sections to this book. There's a case log, experience summary, medications list, monthly planner. Oh, and there's also a journal list. So there's 5 sections. So this is what a page looks like, what a case log page looks like. And as you can see here, it'll just ask you different details about what your goals for today are, what your questions are, the date, the provider that you work with, the office, and then you'll just go through and write different information about the different cases. So the age, the gender, the reason that they visited, and different notes. I feel like this is really good if you're shadowing, and for me, because I knew that I was basically shadowing a scribe, I figured that this would be really good for me to have. I didn't end up writing in this during the shift just because everything was moving so fast. So I actually ended up writing all of my notes on a separate sheet of paper, which I also had with me, and then I decided that I was gonna transcribe it into my notebook later on. This is what an experience summary page looks like, and I feel like this is really good. Again, if you're doing a lot of shadowing at different offices, this will just help you keep everything in line. That way, when it's time for you to document it, whether it's for nursing school or medical school, you have everything in one place. You can also have your minds and thoughts in one place. And also, if you ever need to summarize an experience that you had at a certain place on a certain day or with a certain provider, you have all that that information here. I feel like this is also really good for asking for letters of recommendations from providers. This is what the medication list looks like, and again, there are several pages of this. That's something that I learned very fast. Sometimes you'll hear a word and you're like, what is that? What does that mean? But as you continue to hear the word, you'll start to make associations with things, and it'll just help you to be more well versed in the medical field. Now you know that if a person has these symptoms or if they're diagnosed with this thing, then they'll probably go to these certain medications, or vice versa. If you hear these medications, you'll be like, oh, that means that that patient probably in the past has had this type of diagnosis. So it's really good to keep up with these different things. Lastly, this is what the monthly log looks like. It has a box for every day of the week, and on the side here it has room for you to write different notes, your achievements, things to approve, goals, and study topics. So I think that this will be really useful for me, honestly, at the end of this year, once I've graduated and I'm shadowing and I'm doing things more on a consistent basis. I don't think that I'll write in this every single day as a scribe, but definitely if you are shadowing a physician, I think this would be a really cool item for you to have. I enjoy it so far, and I think that the quality and the content in it is amazing. So I will leave a link in the description box down below if you guys want to check it out. Again, not sponsored, just figured that it fit this video. Okay, so at this point, I'm finally where I need to be in the Team A part of the emergency department. I've been talking to the scribe that I'm shadowing, and I also meet my provider. I know one thing that I was taught and I made sure to do was introduce myself to the provider, let them know, like, hey, I'm Brelynn, I'm a new scribe here. I'll be shadowing so-and-so, doing a round today. The physician that I worked with on my first day was actually really cool. Like, he was really cool and relaxed. His name was Alex, and he was a third-year resident, and yeah, he was just really chill and calm. So I wrote down all of the different cases that we saw. All of them are not interesting, but I just want to give you guys an overview of the different cases that we saw, again, working in the emergency department, because every case was very different. So the first one that we saw was an eye intrusion. Somebody had something stuck in their eye and they were in extreme pain. The next patient that we saw was in a car accident and they ended up having a concussion. The next patient that we saw was in a car accident and they ended up having a concussion. They were pretty shaken up about it, so that was a very interesting experience. That one was very interesting because they had to do a whole psych test on that patient. The next patient that we had was also interesting because they came in thinking that they had a heart attack, but they ended up having a heart block. And also something that I want to mention was that during this time I was studying for my first physiology exam, and the unit that we're on in the moment is the heart. So we've been learning all the different details about a stroke and heartache and left ventricular hypertrophy and how the blood flows from the aorta and how that has to deal with the pulmonary system and all these different things that were just, I really had no idea about. I had recently been learning about it, and I saw everything. Like, I was able to put together a lot of the pieces while working. Honestly, I have like a love-hate relationship with it. If I wanted to be a scribe and I was in undergrad and I was not literally getting my master's in physiology, like learning the body from the inside and its functions, I would be so lost, because I feel like to me the scribe should be the bottom of the barrel, as far as like, there's a scribe, then you have your medical school students, then you have your residents, then you have your chief residents, and then you have, you know, your head provider. But for some reason, the head providers expected for us to know things that I was literally just learning in my master's program. I was so grateful to be learning those things and be understanding, but I felt like, how was I supposed to know this? If you didn't teach me, if I was not in this program, I literally would not know these things. And there were still some situations where I was like, how was I supposed to know that? Even when writing the notes for the patients, sometimes I just felt like my education level wasn't high enough. Like, obviously I won't be able to write the same things or make the same conclusions that the physicians will, because I haven't been to medical school. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm reading. And a lot of times they would say it comes with time, but I felt like sometimes some of that stuff should have been covered in the training. And I'm not complaining, I just wanted to give you guys my perspective on how, like, sometimes it was very overwhelming. Like, the stress really didn't come from, oh, I need to make sure that I'm typing everything really fast. But if you're hearing a lot of big words that you literally have never heard before, you don't know what they mean, it's very hard to write a cohesive paragraph about what that interaction was if you really don't understand it yourself. And honestly, that is why I want to be a physician for women, especially women of color, disadvantaged women, so bad, because it is so important that health disparity is closed, especially for women of color, especially when they're giving birth. I can only imagine being in a life or death situation and a physician is talking to me in words and terms I do not understand, and I have to make a decision when I don't even know what the heck is going on. I saw a lot of that at the hospital. I feel like my provider was really cool at trying to break things down, and he did do that with me afterwards, but sometimes I definitely did feel that disconnect. So anyway, yes, we thought the patient was having an asthma attack, but They ended up having a heart block and they ended up having to be admitted into the hospital, which, okay, also disclaimer, sometimes they'll say things like, oh, that was cool or that was interesting. Obviously, it's an emergency department, it's a hospital, not a good thing for anybody to be there, but as a person who is aspiring to be in the medical field, it's cool to have these experiences, even though it's not cool to like see these people in these situations. So let me just give that disclaimer. Okay, the next patient that we saw I thought was interesting. Apparently the hospital is really close to a prison because we had a couple of inmates that night. But yeah, this patient just needed a liver transplant. The next person who came in had an allergic reaction to walnuts. Pretty boring. Then you guys, this is when it gets real. Now I wish I kept timestamps on everything because I will say that I have had more shifts since that shift, and the shift kind of ran a little bit slow, which I'm very happy about for my first shift. Like, I wouldn't want it to seem like I was like going too fast. She was able to really talk me through a lot of things, which was great. But I remember this time being like, we got to do this for 8 hours, like as in like 6 more than what we've already done. Like, I just kept thinking to myself, like, this is gonna be a very, very, very long shift. But then things got interesting. So where the scribe station is set up when we're not with patients, it's actually like right by the radio. So whenever EMT calls come in, it's really easy to be one of the first people to hear it. So we ended up hearing this call about this woman who they couldn't get a lot of information on, but she was having really bad heart troubles. Your heart attack is something that needs like immediate attention. I feel like around this time though, it was probably like 7 p.m. because I remember being after 5, which plays a part in the later part of this story. So after a few minutes go by, the ambulance show up and it was like the whole world stopped. It really felt like I was in the middle of the resident. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like this is really happening. Again, not happy, but just kind of like, you know, like it's happening. So the patient comes in on the stretcher and let's just say she made herself an entrance. She literally was pulling against the different cords that they had on her chest and she was screaming at everybody like, get off of me, you're hurting me, why are you doing this to me? And I was just like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? So it turns out that this patient had bradycardia. So that means that her heart was beating very, very slow. You could see it in her skin. She was super pale, which means that her heart was not able to pump out the blood in order for it to get to her extremities. Like she was like see-through. So because this patient was dealing with a huge episode of bradycardia, they had to do a cardioversion on her, which is basically, again, what you see in the movies when they put it on their chest and it's like clear, trying to get her heart rate back to normal. But it was extremely difficult to do because she was like literally all throwing things, pushing physicians. Like they had to have people come in and like lock her and tie her down. So you can only imagine like trying to type this out. And that's when I was really like, okay, this is what I expected when I thought like emergency department, not like somebody getting something stuck in their eye, even though that is also an emergency. If it happens at like 5 p.m. on a Friday, like where else are you gonna go? I get it. But this is what I was like, this is medicine, like this is it. So they're trying to calm her down and get her heart rate down to normal. They're injecting her with different things, and at the same time the physicians are calling out things like da 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 da, and I'm looking at the scribe that I'm shadowing, like she literally like, and I'm like, girl, you are killing it. And it was really great how she was doing it too, because when a person comes in on an emergency stretcher like that, because they haven't gone through all of the triage things and they haven't been registered, they don't have an actual patient file on the computer, which is where we do all of our work. So it was really cool to see her think quick on her feet and make sure that she was able to get all the information before we actually were able to open the patient file. And once we did, that's when I realized like, oh, okay, this woman has a lot of like previous history. Yeah, so I have here in my notes that my sleepiness began to start around 6:30 p.m. So I come in at 3, I get to around 6:30 is when I start to be like, okay, whew, I'm feeling tired. Like I remember having to stand up for a good portion of my shift, and then she ended up getting us both chairs to sit down in between. So although I was tired, it was really easy for me to fight my sleep when I was standing up. But once she got me a chair, I was like, ooh, honey, around 6:30, I was like, yeah, I'm starting to feel it. I also have that my back started hurting at 7:15. Like standing up for so long, I mean, I just had to keep stretching and going like this and like bending over and touching my toes. Like my back hurt so bad, and I already kind of deal with lower back issues, so it was not helping at all. Around 7:15 is when the patient came in, and I have here that we were in that room for 90 minutes. It was also really cool because my physician, the resident who I was scribing, he was in charge of this case. But because it was a really big case, the attending or the doctor who was in charge of all the different residents, he was also in the room. Now the attending let him do everything, but you could tell that there were some moments where he was like, oh yeah, this is a teaching hospital, like this is a resident, this is probably a really big deal for him to have to make all the shots and all the calls. And sometimes he would want to look at the attending kind of like, is that okay? Is that what I should do? Is that what you would do? And the attendant was kind of like, you know, think on your feet, come on, like be fast. Like coaching him really throughout the situation. I thought that was a really cool dynamic to see, because again, when you're dealing with the small things, the third year resident, they've been doing this for a while, are pretty experienced. That is their last year in residency for the emergency department, so they're basically about to graduate. So in a few months he's going to be on his own, so you could really tell that the attending was trying to stay back and let him make all the decisions on his own. So again, that was a really cool interaction to see, and I was kind of like, ooh, I wonder what he's going to do. And he ended up doing a really good job throughout all of it. But then the daughter ends up letting us know that she was on a DNR, which, if y'all don't know, that means do not resuscitate. It is that patient's wishes that if anything were to happen to them, to not try and bring them back to life. Like, basically, don't try too hard. They are okay with passing in a medical emergency. It's up to the daughter to decide, am I going to respect my mother's wishes and let her pass tonight as her heart slowly stops beating? Or am I going to allow her to have this major surgery, that way she can continue to live with the pacemaker? It's really a lose-lose situation. Either I have to take super close care of my mother. It's going to make it very difficult to live, not only for her, but also for her mother, who will now have to be her caretaker. Or the daughter could respect her mother's DNR wishes and lose her mother that night. I cannot make this up. I was like, this is crazy. Like, really? On the first day? Like, on the first day? Really? And what made it even worse is that this daughter was not the only child. She actually had 3 other siblings, and nobody would answer the phone. Nobody would answer the phone. And it was like, this is a time-sensitive matter. So we literally have the cardiologist coming down, talking to the daughter, and she was just so distraught, as you can imagine, having to make the biggest decision of your life, and nobody was there to help her out. Like, thank God she had a husband, so her husband was there, but obviously, like, what do you do in that situation? Well, what ends up happening is, because none of the other siblings would answer, she had to make the decision on her own, and she decided to respect her mother's wishes, not allow them to enter the pacemaker into her heart. She decided to stay with her that night and allow her heart to slowly stop beating. Although the death wasn't a painful one, it definitely was a shocking and eye-opening experience. I think that a lot of people in that situation would have been selfish and say, like, no, this is my mom, I love you, like, if there's a way that we can fix this, like, do whatever you can. But she decided to respect her mom, which I admire her so much for. So yeah, that happened about midway through my shift. So you can imagine that for the rest of my shift, I kind of was just like, the whole time, like, I could not believe that had happened, because once the woman was sedated, I did have a few interactions with her, like helping her move her bed and things like that. And so it was really kind of crazy to have seen the lasting moments in her life. So I ended up talking to some of the other scribes, as well as the scribe who I was shadowing. Everybody said that was not normal. Like, that normally does not happen. Even for the people who have been working there for a few months, they had only seen a person actually die, like maybe once or twice, especially not like on your first day. So I thought that was a very interesting experience, and immediately I knew, like, okay, I have to make a whole story time about this, because again, I couldn't really vlog anything, and I just felt like so hyper aware in that moment. That took up a few hours of my shift, and we only ended up seeing a few patients after that. One was a pregnant woman who had abdominal pain, the other was a person who had a stroke and they had full side weakness, and the last person was somebody who had back pain after a recent surgery. So that is how my first shift went. I'm going to show you guys now clips of me when I end up finally leaving the hospital and my initial immediate thoughts. I just got done my first 8-hour shift. I am so tired. It is now 11 p.m. I'm leaving the hospital. First of all, let me just say, at this moment, I'm really sick and tired. Come on, lighting. I'm really sick and tired of being lost. Like, I had to ask for directions so many times to get out of the hospital, because I don't know where I'm going. And I feel like none of this was discussed on the tour. Like, the fact that I was given my tour months ago, I don't know where I'm going now. Hopefully I've been able to relay the way that this shift went, since it's not the day of them. Telling you guys all about it. So I didn't end up taking a lunch break, or like a dinner break, I guess. I could have had the option to, but I didn't bring anything with me. Like I told you guys, I ate right before I came, so I didn't end up being hungry. And the scribe that I was shadowing, she brought dinner, but she didn't eat it. So there was a break room, and they did have a refrigerator, but like, I didn't have anything to put in there. I also didn't bring a water bottle, because I just figured, like, where was I gonna put it? But like, I high-key could have had one. So I ended up just having a cup of water that I just kept filling up, which I could also fill up at the hospital. So that's good to know for my next time. My back hurts so bad. Like, I cannot wait to stretch tomorrow. This lighting is just it. This lighting is it. But yeah, I cannot wait to stretch, and I also cannot wait to get in the bed, and I also can't wait to eat. But it's my last day of fasting, so I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do for dinner tonight because I'm super hungry. Literally haven't eaten in hours, but can't eat fast food just yet. So that's my overall impression. Afterwards, I feel like I had a very eventful first shift, but I survived. I made it. I finally made it to the parking deck, so that's it. That's my first shift done. So that brings me to the end of this story time and the end of my video, sharing with you guys my first shift in the hospital. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have had your first shift in the hospital, leave me down below. I'm going to read what was your experience like. Was it very crazy, kind of like mine was, or was it really boring? I would love to know. Also, again, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so you don't miss a notification from me. I'm going to leave my post notification on the screen right now. If you want one of these, subscribe, ring the bell, then comment down below, post notification gang with your @ name or a nice comment, and I'll make shout you out in the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did and you want more, please give me a thumbs up or comment down below some video ideas that you would like for me to do. Make sure you live each day to the fullest because you only live once, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.